Sorry, I'll start again with my microphone. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of North Norfolk District Council on Wednesday, the 27th of March. Apologies for absence, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Don Birch, Councillor Andrew Brown, Councillor Gary Bull, Councillor Gerard Mancini Boyle, Councillor Saul Penfold, Councillor Richard Sims, and Councillor Emma Spagnola.
Thank you very much. I assume everyone's had a chance to read the minutes of the last meeting. Does anyone have any comments they would like to make on them, please? No? Do I have a proposer to accept these as a true record, please? Councillor Shires. And a seconder, please. Councillor John Toy. So then, can we move to the vote, please? All those in favour of accepting them as a true record? Lovely, thank you very much. Can I just check there are no abstentions?
I wasn't here, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. And any votes against? Thank you. I'm not aware of any items of urgent business. Does anyone have any declarations of interests that they would like to make? Councillor Shires.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Just with regards to item 12, I'm actually a member of Victory Gym in North Walsham, and through the Everyone Active membership, I would get access to that facility.
Thank you. Anybody else? No, thank you very much. So we come on to my communications. Thank you. I think the first event was actually attended by Councillor Holiday instead of myself. So if you'd like to say a few words.
Oh, this was brilliant. This was a civic service hosted by a mayor of whom I have sincere chain envy. I must say, he's a delightful man. And it was a delightful service where the children from the local school sang, and it was really good fun. And Wisbech is absolutely beautiful, and had a really nice day there. Thank you.
Yes, that man has got a serious chain, hasn't he? He needs a whole security army to go out with him, I think, when he goes out. So the next event was the High Sheriff of Norfolk Service of Youth and Hope at King's Lynn Minster. It was a lovely, lovely service. The High Sheriff has been fantastic to work with this year. He had several groups of young people there doing different things, including a group of actors who had learning disabilities or physical disability. And it was just, they were wonderful. They were absolutely wonderful to watch. There was some singing by the choir of the Brownies and Guides, and all sorts of different things happened. It was lovely. It's really lovely service. It was really poorly attended. It was really disappointing. I felt very sorry for him because there weren't a lot of people left. And then we had a bake sale and Easter raffle, and we raised a massive £515 and 60p, don't forget the 60p, for my chairman's charity this year. And I'd like to thank everyone who baked something or who came along and bought something. The staff were hugely supportive, and it was really, really appreciated. And particularly to the team in the benefits office where they hosted it. That was great. Thank you. That's it. So we come to leaders' announcements, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First of all, in Councillor Andrew Brown's absence due to moving home today, I first of all wish to apologise on his behalf for the upset in relation to the commentary on the planning application at Haysborough. Andrew had previously supported the deferral of the said application to examine the concerns raised, but supported the application, especially given the impacts of not having potentially not having parking facilities present in the village, and it was certainly not his intention to cause any offence. Secondly, just a very brief update in relation to the RNLI Museum in Cromer, which I was asked to give a brief update on, and just to say that the meeting envisaged to be held on the 11th of April with the RNLI has been brought forward to tomorrow, where we will discuss a potential extension to previous lease arrangements and the future of the building. Next, I wanted to thank staff members and the contractor involved in the works at Black Swan Lake in North Walsham, which has the works there have recently finished, and a fantastic job done. And with the first tenants also in the Cedars, it's really another chance to reflect on the successes of that project as a whole. But finally, just to keep it brief, I just wanted to wish all members and officers a restful Easter. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. I'm not aware of any public questions or statements. So I come back to you, councillor Adams, for any appointments to committees, subcommittees, working partners or outside bodies, please.
Yes, so there are a few changes to announce this evening. First of all, in relation to both licensing committees, Don Birch will take over as vice chair. That's Councillor Don Birch. Secondly, in relation to the Planning Policy and Built Heritage Working Party, Councillor Mike Hankins will take over as chairman of that working party. And the Standards Committee will be chaired in future by Councillor Jill Boyle. And delighted to announce Councillor John Toy has taken the portfolio for sustainable growth, and also an opportunity just to thank Councillor Paul Heinrich for his service to the Cabinet and for all he's done since he's been in post. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, councillor Adams. Councillor Cushing, do you have anything you would like to add? And councillor Fitch-Tillett? Then we move to portfolio holder reports. I'm aware that one of the reports is missing, and apparently that was down to an administration slip up between different parties. So that will be rectified and sent round to everyone. Okay. Who would like to ask a question? Councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I might as well kick off then, so to speak. I'd like to ask a question of the leader, please. I was doing a little bit of analysis looking at some of the websites from the other councils, particularly Broadland and South Norfolk. And one thing suddenly struck me. They have 7 cabinet members each, whereas we actually have 9. So I want to ask him why we have 9 when those 2 districts can make do with 7 apiece. Now, I know Councillor Shires is always very keen for me to come out, get involved from my group in terms of looking for savings that can be made. And I've got some here that could be made if we reduced the cabinet from 9 to 7. The current cabinet allowance is £8,633.03. So if we took 2 of those out and multiplied it by 3 for the next 3 years, that would give us a saving of £51,798.18. So given that we're looking desperately for extra funding and money, I was wondering why we can't actually move to that model, and what that works obviously well enough for both Broadland and South Norfolk. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the guidance, Councillor Cushing. I have no intention currently of reducing the number of cabinet members. You compared us to 2 different councils. Of course, we're all very distinct. Of course, most of the positions, will be reflected in other councils. Of course, we have a coastal portfolio holder, and that is very reasonable. We certainly have a very significant large project on the go at the moment. There's always work. In fact, I think our coastal portfolio holder is perhaps the busiest in terms of number of meetings per month. I think reflective of some of the challenges we have in terms of housing. We certainly also take our net zero commitments very seriously. And I believe the other positions are certainly reflective or reflected in other authorities. So authorities are distinct, workloads are distinct, but all of my cabinet members are very busy people and certainly don't wish to spread that across a smaller number at the present time. In future, who knows? You know, these things can change, and all of my cabinet members and my members know that we take a view that these matters are sort of reviewed quite frequently. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that things can change. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bayes, I believe you had your hand up a minute ago.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I acknowledge the importance of the Outlook magazine, the importance it serves to update our residents across North Norfolk regarding key information. Once again, this magazine doesn't provide clear evidence. Again, this magazine provides clear evidence that there is neglect and disregard for our particularly Stalham, but other towns within our area. Having read it from back to front, there's no mention of the town at all. Can I request that future issues reflect the news of all the towns, all the market towns in North Norfolk, and not just the select ones for the sake of equality?
I'll happily take the question. I do think we've got something to say about Stalham in the next issue. So you know, it's very much reflective of some of the things that are going on. Obviously, you know, for instance, there's been a lot of work around Coastwise recently and that sort of thing. So yeah, almost certainly Stalham will be represented, as will different areas of the district in future publications. Glad you reflected on the importance of the publication as a means of communicating with residents. Not everyone can access the internet and or frequently accesses print media. I think as well in terms of signposting towards services and the different forms of help there are out there for residents, whatever their needs might be. It's very useful. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, my question is also for Councillor Adams. On changes to holiday let tax relief, will they have the desired impact? And is there an update on second homes council tax premiums?
Thank you. Yes, this was certainly, you know, a lot of attention over the recent weeks. Clearly, you know, we don't have any involvement with the changes to capital gains taxes to holiday lets. I don't think it's the right answer. Certainly concerned that our holiday let owners haven't had any prior consultation of those changes. And if you think for many of those people, they might be in their 50s, 60s, 70s, it might be a retirement for them. So it's, you know, potentially a big change to suddenly see that additional increase in capital gains upon the sale, capital gains tax on the sale of that property. What we would push for distinctly is locally controlled taxation registration to avoid those that might avoid service charges. Yeah, as I say, there's a local answer, I believe, to these issues that I'm not sure has been addressed. And the bottom line is that none of these changes ultimately will benefit the residents of the North Norfolk. It's funded more tax cuts. It hasn't funded housing. So I think, you know, for those holiday let owners, they might be feeling quite sore about that actually, because you would think that maybe they might accept changes in taxation. It happens to us all in many different ways. They would want to see the taxation benefit the right areas. In terms of an update on the second homes premium, things are obviously still moving ahead with discussions between all of the local councils in Norfolk. There was some changes in guidance that were published very recently by the government that will change the picture somewhat. So in terms of second homes that are being used for the purposes of, well, really a house, for someone that's working in the area of say our district or another during the week, but they have another residence. So it's, sort of away from home accommodation for the purposes of work. So that's, that will be excluded from this premium, and that's probably a positive thing. Albeit very limited, I would say, for us. Clearly, it's probably more of a concern for other districts. But we will work up a business plan to demonstrate how we intend to use that revenue for the benefit of those that are dealing with homelessness and housing situations across our district. And as a group, we will discuss that in due course. A group of district and the county councils, I should say. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I've got a question for Councillor Lucy Shires. So I read with great interest in the EDP recently about this council issuing a CPO for the former Shannock site in Sheringham. And naturally, this started the cogs turning in my head. And I've heard, the argument so many times that one of the key issues that we face in Stalham is that the district council doesn't have enough assets. So, as I said, cogs started turning, and I started to think, would there be a possibility in the future, potentially, for the council to start looking at sites in Stalham which are an eyesore? I mean, for an example, we have the old highways depot at the top of our high street. That was actually one of the first issues I raised when I was first elected to council, to see if the district would be interested in, in securing that site. So if this is a new policy, if this is something that the district council is now looking at, can I have an assurance that the cabinet will assess sites in Stalham for a CPO?
Is this because I've got a sore throat?
I'm very sorry about that.
As you know, I have offered for us to go on a little road trip around Stalham to have these conversations, and that offer's still open. So let's get something in the diary and have a drive around and see what we can find.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My question is also to Councillor Shires, hoping your throat can stand the pressure. In respect of the ongoing discussions with the Marham's Bowls Club, it's a long time ago since a paper came to Cabinet for several £100,000 of restoration work to be funded. I recall that bid was put on hold pending further information. Has that been provided, and what progress has been made to date, please?
I'm going to look forward to more and more questions as my throat deteriorates. So the update that I've got at the moment is that we have offered another design option to the Marhams, and we're hoping that they would be able to raise part of the cost of that. And that's where we are at the moment. There will be a design presented to us as an alternative now that the Bowls Club have agreed that in principle.
Thank you. Councillor Beattie.
Fortunately, Lucy, I've got another question for you. Is there any progress to be reported on the Albert Street toilets in Hope, please?
Yes, I have already told the leader that if my voice goes, that he'll have to answer the questions from now on. So where we are at the moment is that the contract has been awarded for the actual demolition and rebuild. The structural engineer designs for the new footings are completed. All party wall notices have been issued. There's 5 of them. They've been signed and returned, so there's no issues. As planning approval was granted last year, along with a conditional building control approval for the inclusion of heating for the changing places facility. So the next stage is, apologies, we're now waiting for the contractor's construction phase plan to give us a start date to deliver the project in 12 weeks as they tendered. We'd actually anticipated that would be 16 weeks, so that's a shorter time than we thought. And once this is issued in the coming days, Adam one of our property services team will be visiting the site with the electricians to look at a temporary builder's supply. And if UK Power Network are needed to be involved, we expect a 2 to 4 week lead-in time for that. We're also in contact with Anglian Water about the sewer diversion, and they need to have CCTV of the runs. Previous attempts were not clear enough, so this will be carried out professionally within the contractor's project delivery scheme. We're also in contact with the town council clerk as well. So we're just at stages where we'll start to see something happen, but I'm more than happy to update you personally as we move on with that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, Lucy, question for you again. I believe at the last full council meeting, there was an anticipated revenue budget deficit of 250,000. I just wondered if this funding gap had been resolved and the budget had been balanced.
So I'm going to guess that you're referring to the savings yet to be identified part of the budget.
Yes, that was it.
Okay, perfect. So Overview and Scrutiny Committee, when I presented the actual budget there, I'd requested that throughout the year we would report on the potential savings and income that we'd anticipated, and that will come as part of the budget monitoring process throughout the year. So Overview and Scrutiny, with the guidance of Councillor Dixon, will have quite a firm eye on that, so that will be reported along with the budget monitoring process.
Thank you. Councillor Boyle.
My question's for Councillor Fredericks. Can you give us more details on what has been achieved through the concentrated efforts on home energy efficiency in Salem? And how might this be applied elsewhere? Because it seems like a really positive way forward.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Yeah, it's been a fantastic trial that we've done in Salem. What happened is we firstly mail dropped residents of Salem that were off gas, and then we followed up with door knocking. It was so successful, in fact, that the next figures will show that 40% of the whole of the Norfolk Warm Homes Energy Grant actually went to North Norfolk. So, and we had 31 properties in total in North Norfolk. 41 properties in North Norfolk that were received grants, and 31 of them was in Salem. So yes, it's been a really good trial, and we're going out to places like Ludham and Catfield next. So yeah, it's a great trial, and we've been awarded a share of we have been awarded the Norfolk Warm Homes Grant next round, and we anticipate that we're going to grab all the money for our residents of North Norfolk again. And I've put a link in all of your inboxes about how to apply for Warm Homes grants. So yeah, this is for everybody, but the door knocking was great. So it just goes to show you, if you actually talk to residents and find out what they need, then they'll respond to us, and then we can help. So it's all about outreach, listening, and bringing that information here to NNDC, and that's what, you know, and I want to thank the ward councillors as well. They were supportive of that approach in Salem as well. And it's all about ward councillors really, and our communication and our responsibilities and our relationships with our ward residents as well. And it's our job to bring forward what those residents actually need in their town and fight for them. I know that in Munsley, for example, we wouldn't get half the stuff that we're getting if I wasn't shouting about Munsley. So thank you.
Thank you. Normally, it's a one rule. Are you sure? I was going to say, because she's just made the point about the importance of ward councillors. Okay. Councillor Vickers.
Thank you. Councillor Adams, in the absence of Councillor Brown, regarding nutrient neutrality credits, could you update the council on whether any credits have been purchased by developers across the district? Thank you.
So obviously, this is an issue that will be with us for a long time to come. I'm not informed of all the issues. Obviously, there are ways that mitigation can be carried out on site, etc. We're all aware of the joint venture, but what I think there's a consensus really around the room. We need an update as all members on the current position and how we move forward. So I think that's probably the best thing to do in the interim, because we'll have a lot of other questions. I certainly have some of my own questions. Very big, prickly issue, which absolutely essential that we continue to do everything we can to get on top of, to be honest with you. And of course, you know, it's not just us, it's neighbouring authorities as well.
Thank you. Councillor Toy, Kim.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is a question for Councillor Withington. I'd be interested to have an update regarding the community connectors.
Thank you for asking about the community connectors, Councillor Toy. I'm very pleased to say that we have been able to support the continuation of the fixed term contracts. Well, not a continuation, they have new contracts. They came to the end and we have been able to continue with 6 community connectors. So that is a very positive step for our community. They have filled an excellent role in building a network across not just the district council, but the our communities as well, because they act as a conduit into social prescribing, and social prescribing financial inclusion can pass through to community connectors. So we have a much comprehensive support network there as that, and I'm sure you will join me in an expression of pleasure that they are back and there to support the council and our communities, most importantly.
Thank you very much. Councillor Vardy. You haven't got a question? Oh. Sorry, I thought you said you had. Thank you. Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you for your question. Absolutely, of course I can. I'm really pleased to announce that our next project is a solar panels green sustainability initiative at the Victory Swim and Fitness Centre in North Walsham. And this is going to be a fantastic new initiative taken by this council to achieve net zero and in ensuring that we decrease carbon emissions in our estate. It is ambitious and it is going to cost, you know, a fair amount of money. And on that point, I would like to announce that this council does have fantastic news that it has been awarded £174,725 from Sport England's Swimming Pool Support Fund. I mean, that is fantastic news. And I would just like to take this opportunity to thank Officer Kate Rawlings. She's done a fantastic job. And anecdotally, this scheme, this application was oversubscribed. So I think that just actually proves the fact that our application was of a very high caliber. And I would just like to say my thanks again. And it's really important that we do these schemes. You know, this is going to create sustainable green energy, which will then be pumped back into our leisure facility. It will ensure a reduction of carbon emissions, but also bring down the energy running costs. And that's so important because leisure centres are one of our biggest carbon emitters. So we must come up with grand, innovative solutions to help tackle that, but also ensure that we can keep these facilities running, because actually some councils are closing their leisure facilities because of the high costs. So again, I just want to reiterate that point, that we're reducing our carbon emissions and also reducing running costs as well. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the last question I had. Does anyone else have another question that they wanted to ask? Yes, you can.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. About, could I ask the portfolio holder for sustainable growth, whether there will be a report coming out? I know you're in transit and it's an interim phase, but it would be really useful because otherwise we're in the dark as to what's
Absolutely.
happening.
As was announced, I think the chairman said we will get that out hopefully tomorrow, and I welcome obviously any questions. Please come to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Are you quite sure, Councillor Taylor, because we now have time over before we run out of our 30 minutes, so you can come back if you would like.
No, it's fine, Madam Chairman, but I will if I may. So just to come back on my first question, so Councillor Shires, obviously I know we've spoken about going for our little road trip to Stalham and having a look at some sites. I wonder if Councillor Toy, in your new position as well as the economic development portfolio holder. So on Friday, I had several meetings with local businesses who are still feeling the impact of the high street closure. You know, their takings are down. I wonder if you'd also join myself and Councillor Bayes for, several meetings with high street business owners.
Absolutely. I look forward to catching up with you. You've got the High Street Action thing that's going on. And so I've already spoken to the team. I met for the first time yesterday and said, I need to get down to Stalham so that we can connect up with you. So hopefully we can tie that all up together and we can have a grand day out. And I look forward to it. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'll take you to the Stalham Swan. It's the best pub in North Norfolk. Yeah.
I'm sure there are other pubs available, other hostelries available before we upset anyone. Right. If no one's got any more questions, we'll move on then. Thank you very much. So we move on to item 10, recommendations from Cabinet.
Just to confirm that recognise everything there and happy to propose the recommendations. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Does anybody have any questions on this item? Councillor Cushing?
So does that mean actually, are we actually going to vote on the economic strategy and action plan now? Is that?
It's resolved to recommend it to council, so yes, we're going to
Well,
vote.
I think it's fair to split that one. Sorry if I can intervene, because I think Councillor Cushing has raised a good point, because we had intended to speak on that item. So if I can defer to the economic growth portfolio holder for that. Thank you.
This is for the economic strategy and action plan, which I know has been, I've been around obviously as it's been through overview and scrutiny, and you've had a chance to look at it. And I understand there's also some requests from overview and scrutiny for some additional top end high level documents for that, which are being worked on. I'd like to obviously thank the previous portfolio holder that's got us to this stage as well. That would be remiss of me not to do that. This is all their work, and obviously the team, the officers of the council have worked hard to gather the data and carry out the engagement required to bring this to you. And thank you to everybody who's had input. That includes overview and scrutiny and everybody who's seen it. I thought that what I would do is just take the final part of the report where it says adoption by the council will illustrate the importance and value that NNDC places on its role in helping to create a vibrant, healthy and sustainable local economy. And as part of that, when we talk of local, and I thought I would just pick up that was something that I've spoken many times about to the leader and others. We need to remember our truly rural places. We've got 40% of our people, 44,000 people live in the countryside. So I'll be working on strategies to support them as well as our towns. Often we look at the coast and the towns, and I hope to deliver on that as well, not instead of. So it's before you, and I'm excited about this and the economic future for the few things that I've seen already in the few days that I've been the chair. there's an exciting team there and some exciting opportunities. So I'd like to propose this for recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Hine. Councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm not sure whether Councillor Toy was actually at the overview and scrutiny meeting where we discussed this, but for his benefit and others, I'll just reiterate, repeat some of the points that we made there. First of all, I'm delighted actually to see that we actually have got a document and we didn't get one in the last administration. I do think it's vital that we do have a strategy document looking at how we can promote businesses across all sectors in North Norfolk. I have to say one thing we did say there, we are concerned about the structure and length of the document. I think when you draft a document like this, you have to think about who do you actually want to read it. And I think 60 pages, it ought to be read outside the realms of North Norfolk District Council. Ideally, you're going to put it in the hands of businesses who can take that to actually glean and understand what most of the challenges are across their sector and also what the council and indeed others can do for them. I do note that you accepted the recommendation there from us that actually a summary ought to be drafted. And if it were me drafting the document itself, I would have focused it actually around the economic sectors that we have within North Norfolk. There is good information in there, but it's spread all over the place. I think at times it's quite hard to nail down what that actually means. If you had a document focused on the individual sectors, so for example, the marine sector, you could articulate what the challenges are, what the opportunities are, what the objectives of this administration are in order to help them in that area, and really also what other opportunities there are for this council and indeed other government bodies in order to help them. So it is a bit work in progress. I say it is a little bit disappointing the way it's tried to say lots of good material in there and actually a lot of actually useful metrics and information in the middle of the document. But I do think that summary is absolutely essential in order to get it sort of more widely read. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chairman. Just following on from Councillor Cushing's account of discussions at overview and scrutiny, he's quite right. And I just want to add to what he's already said. I think in very summary form, I would say that it's rather like the curate's egg. It was certainly good in parts and not good in other parts. So the good parts were undoubtedly the case studies that were very enlightening and very constructive and positive. And they have their place in informing the council. And I think one of the comments was that these kind of good news stories shouldn't wait for a strategy to be produced and attach them to them. They deserve being published in their own right. So, but that adds nothing, I have to say, to the expression and articulation of a strategy. And undoubtedly the struggle that I and others had, when you look through the 60-page document, you had to piece together disjointed parts of a strategy, and you had to imagine that in effect. And what we should be doing is producing something succinct and very focused. Whether you focus on sectors or whether you focus on something else is a matter for further consideration, perhaps. But it really, if you're going to express a strategy, then it really should be a relatively short document, and it needs to be succinct and to the point. The action plan or a delivery plan, call it what you will, that can be set out as a follow-on to that. But to merge it and to conflate it in a document like this, I think fails the engagement test that we want from our residents and businesses in particular. It will put them off it. So that was the summary, basically, of discussions at overview and scrutiny. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you wish to comment?
Yeah, no, just to say thank you. Thank you for doing that for me. Because, as I've just moved into the seat, obviously I've been at some of the meetings, but obviously I would review that in time. And hopefully we can bring something back in terms of that summary that you will find satisfactory, and we can carry on with that discussion. I see it as a working document. It's work in progress. Hopefully we've got something that is in front of us that we can work with. And yeah, so thank you. No, but I still recommend it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shires.
Um, it's quite difficult to please a review and scrutiny, in all honesty, because out of every strategy and action plan that's ever been presented, this is by far the one that most incorporates all the feedback that's been given. The language is very accessible. There's something in there for every person to be able to take something away from in terms of imagery, graphics, language use. But all in all, the actual action plan, which is the bit that this administration has often been criticised the most over, actually takes up a fair proportion of this document. And I think it's really impressive that not only have we got a strategy that's completely accessible to everyone and anybody, but there's an action plan with delivery dates and outcomes, which is something that we've often been criticised for not doing. So all in all, I am at an absolute loss as to what Overview and Scrutiny Committee would like from any paper that we present to them. And I would like to thank the officers for their work and businesses for their input. And above all else, I'd like to thank Councillor Heinrich for the time that he dedicated to doing this, and to John Toy for his work going forward.
Thank you. Is anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Councillor Withington?
Thank you. I'd like to pick up on the point made about the case studies, because actually Councillor Dixon referred to this as having a role for people coming from outside the district and perhaps having a look at what North Norfolk's got to offer in terms of its business community and economic growth possibilities. And I think what was surprising, I think, for most of us and was commented on in Overview and Scrutiny was the breadth of the businesses that were involved in those case studies. And I think someone coming from the outside seeing that breadth would actually be thinking, actually, this is quite a positive place to come to and would be encouraged to look further. I think it's a bit of an eye-opener to what people imagine is going on in North Norfolk. So from my point of view, I particularly welcome those case studies being in there, and I think they are a strength of the strategy.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Councillor Boyle?
Yes, I would agree. That I did see it as a very well-rounded document, and I think we did agree at Overview and Scrutiny a summary would be useful. However, I found it very, we all have different ways of looking at things, thinking about things, but I found it was extremely well, for me, it was very, very well laid out, very easy to understand, and really encouraging. And also, it wasn't just words, there was a definite strategy to it. So I just had a different take on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Much has been made about the request for a summary, and Councillor Cushing did just quickly refer to this, but we also asked for an analysis of the other sectors than the visitor economy, because we know an awful lot about that, but we don't know at all how much we bring out in agribusiness or food manufacture and the marine sector. And we did actually ask for additional information in relation to the sectoral analysis. And I just wanted to emphasize that because I think it's really important. We seem to have lost that rather in the thread today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I am aware of that, and I know that they're trying to get that information together for you. So when it comes back, we've done that. Thank you.
So I think that's been captured as well, and hopefully that recommendation will move forward because it's important. Need to know every area.
Emphasised sufficiently. Thank you.
Lovely. In which case, if no one else is wishing to speak, it having been duly proposed and seconded, can I have a show of hands to support the adoption of this document, please? Any abstentions, please? And any against, please? So thank you, that's carried 19. Yes. Thank you. So we now move to Councillor Dixon. Recommendations from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You have one recommendation before you from the 14th of February meeting. I won't read it out. Everybody's had the opportunity of reading that, and I doubt many people would distance themselves from that recommendation. So I put that to full council this evening. And in respect of the meeting for March, there were no recommendations for full council. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you very much. So we move on to the Fakenham Leisure and Sports Hub. Can I just please, before we start this discussion, remind members there is a purple paper on this. If anyone wishes to go into that detail on that purple paper, we will need to move into part 2 and close the meeting to public. So if we can manage to hold the discussion in public, I'm sure everyone would appreciate it. Okay, so can I ask Councillor Adams to present it, please?
Yeah, this paper, besides providing an update on the current position, also demonstrates our preferences in terms of procurement and deals with the inflationary impact at present. It should be noted that we are working at some risk presently until such time that the relevant government department confirms the funding provision, and that is fairly open-ended. This project is of course worth £11 million of investment in the Fakenham locality, I should say, coupled with the commitment to the roundabout and the recent investments such as that at Queen's Road public conveniences. This represents a greater amount of capital funding spent in any North Norfolk town, including sea defence works since 2003 to 2006. So we are very proud of securing this funding, and we can now demonstrate that we will make the most of it in partnership, of course, with others such as the Town Council and our provider, Everyone Active. And as the chairman has noted, please do note that there are confidential papers related to the procurement enclosed. Should you wish to discuss these, we will of course need to go into part 2. However, I'm very happy to recommend or propose the recommendation and briefly hand over to Councillor Withington for any further comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. I was just going to update really on the recent Flash Committee. It's a rather unusual name in, I find it strange when I'm saying to people I'm going to Flash. So yes, but the Flash Committee is the Fakenham Leisure project. It met this week actually. It was a very productive meeting and very positive meeting. I think Councillor Cushing, who was there, would agree. The recent design changes that were explored and looked at, and was positive responses to those. There was an issue raised about why it couldn't have been a 6-lane swimming pool, but it was very clear that the increased cost of that would have been phenomenal. And in fact, the figures from Sport England showed that the numbers of anticipated swimmers, they do a lane per person formula, would have been around 2.3 lanes, and at 4, so we would be well served with 4-lane swimming pool. A visit by the officers to similar projects has also come back with similar feeling that 4 lanes is the norm and is more than adequate. And obviously, in addition to construction costs, it would be ongoing costs of running a 6-lane pool, because you have to have much water because of the volume. So so everything's moving forward well. The officers are working at speed to bring things together. And as Councillor Adams has alluded to, the biggest risk to the project is the confirmation of the award of the funding. But I have to say officers have been very proactive in requesting this and going back to government. I understand it's slightly difficult because it's not just involving DLUC, it's also Treasury and it's getting them to work together. But it's really important that we do get that through quickly, because if we don't, then it could potentially lead to having insufficient time to complete the project, which is perhaps a significant factor to be considered in why only 10% of funding has been spent so far on DLUC projects. So it would be most unfortunate, but I'm positive that with our really hard work from our officers, that we are moving forward and we are where we can be and as far ahead as we can be to be ready to go the minute that funding comes through. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask on this? Councillor Cushing.
If I may, just a comment or really a question. As Councillor Whittington said, we actually had the second steering group on Monday, which I thought was very positive indeed, led ably by Officer Hems, covered a whole range of issues there. So I'm delighted to support the proposals here today. Spoken to many residents across Fakenham, not only in my ward, but also Fakenham South as well, and there's overwhelming support for this. People are absolutely delighted. I think it's been about 10 years since we last had a swimming pool in Fakenham, and the nearest one is Dereham, so it's a long way for anyone to go. So it'll not only, it will really enhance the town in that particular area, which is actually going to be very close to where the urban extension will hopefully be built one day. In that sense, so absolutely delighted with that. I just would echo the one slight area I think all concern that all of us would have, and that's around the formal offer of DLUC funding, which I know Officer Hems has been chasing assiduously now for a number of weeks, and I'm sure will continue to do so. But that is absolutely key. There's no reason to believe that won't come through from what I've been told. But I do think obviously everything pivots on that as well. But other than that, happy to support the proposal today. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak on this item? No? So it was proposed by Councillor Adams, seconded by Councillor Withington. Can we move to vote on this, please? All those in favour? Unanimous. Lovely. Looked unanimous, but did anybody wish to abstain or object? No. Good. Lovely. And that brings us to the end of tonight's agenda. We have no questions received from members, no opposition business, and notices of motion.